Welcome to Red Banner and Fitness 101. So before we get too much farther into it, I want to talk about the difference between aerobic and anaerobic activity. So I know this is a lot of information, but I'll just kind of summarize here. What we're talking about is cardio. So there's three different pathways that your body utilizes energy. So the first two, phosphagen and glycolytic pathways, are anaerobic. The third, oxidative, that is aerobic. So when we're talking about doing any sort of cardio, biking, running, swimming, etc., whatever we're talking about, it's either going to be anaerobic or aerobic activity. So what it boils down to is intensity levels. Any intensity level that you can maintain over anything over a few minutes, that's aerobic. Intensity levels that are high enough that you can only maintain it for 30 seconds or a minute, maybe a minute and a half or two at the most, that's considered anaerobic. That intensity level is so high that you have to use one of those first two pathways, the phosphagen or the glycolytic pathways, to sustain that energy level. Anything longer than about 2 minutes, that's aerobic, and that's when we start getting into the oxidative. Now, in the grand scheme, it's not terribly important that we remember this information, but there is a big difference in how your body reacts to aerobic activity versus how it reacts to anaerobic activity. So the difference between aerobic and anaerobic, like we were saying, was aerobic is anything that you can sustain over a few minutes, any intensity levels that you can maintain that long. So this is what we're talking about when people go out and they try to burn fat or get in better shape or whatever. The first thing they want to do is hop on the treadmill or the Stairmaster or the elliptical and just go for 30 minutes. So it's good and bad. So the aerobic and the anaerobic are two different ways to kind of do the same thing, but there's also some different results that come with that. So aerobic activity is good. Anything over a few minutes, that's good for burning fat, but aerobic activity actually limits and decreases your speed, your power, your muscle mass, and it even decreases your anaerobic activity. So if you're constantly training at really low intensities for a long period of time, you're literally wasting your own muscle, you're decreasing your power, strength, and speed, and you're decreasing your anaerobic activity. So you're decreasing your ability to sustain high intensity levels for short periods of time. Now the cool thing about anaerobic is that not only do you keep your muscle mass, you build your strength, your power, your speed, you decrease body fat, you actually increase your aerobic capacity as well. So the more you train at short intensities, short high intensity levels, the better you are at the long-term lower intensity activities. So if you look at these two athletes, they're both elite level athletes in their own arena. The one on the left is a sprinter, an Olympic sprinter, hurdler, and the one on the right is a marathon runner. So they both train in similar fashions. They're both basically running experts. However, the hurdler, the sprinter, obviously has a lot more muscle mass, a little bit more form, and the marathon runner has little or no muscle mass at all. I could just about guarantee the marathon runner could not lift, half of what the sprinter could. But the whole point is that they're both training the same sport. I mean, when you get down to it, they're both runners. But one is training anaerobically, the other one is training aerobically, or really long distance. So when you train anaerobically, you get to keep your muscle mass, you build the power and the speed, you burn the body fat, you boost your metabolism like crazy, and you're actually better at the aerobic activity. You can sustain a lower level of intensity for a much longer period of time. But when you focus on the aerobic capacity as opposed to the anaerobic, you're decreasing your anaerobic capacity, which means you'll be less tuned for short bursts of intensity, really high levels of short intensity, and your body's using your muscle for fuel. So you're burning fat, yeah, but you're also drastically decreasing your power, your strength, your speed, all that. So when we train aerobically, it's much more beneficial, anaerobically, it's much more beneficial than when we train strictly long distances, long periods of time at a lower level intensity.